So I'm going to go ahead and now try to basically deploy my changes to my next environment. I actually have both automated triggers set up for deployment to my integration environment and manual triggers for my higher environments, such as my staging and production environment. So I'm going to switch to the deploy tab here. So we're using Bamboo for doing deployments as well. So I have a deployment project here, as you can see here, and I've got 4 environments that we'll be deploying to. You notice my integration environment already got updated with the latest release, and because I had set up an automated trigger, so every time I have a successful build, it automatically goes ahead and triggers a deployment to the integration database, and you can easily see that here. So I'm going to quickly walk you through. Actually, before doing that, I'm going to go ahead and trigger the deployment to my testing environment. So I'm going to push that same release that we automatically deploy to our integration database. And that started deployment. And while we're waiting for that, I'm going to quickly walk you through the deployment steps that I've set up for my different environments. So again, for integration environment, you know, that got triggered automatically. So here I've set up a trigger to automatically deploy after successful build plan. And as far as my steps, I'm using our PowerShell commandlet to first create a database release, which basically it creates a report of what differences exist between your NuGet package and your target database that you're deploying to. And that creates an HTML report where you can review the update script as well as the differences between the NuGet package and your database. And then the next step is to deploy that update script that we created as part of the previous step. So these are the 2 steps that I've configured. We actually have detailed documentation on our website and some examples of how you can configure these in Bamboo. So you can just copy the scripts from there and get up and running with it within your environment. So for my acceptance environment, however, I've got one additional step here. So here you can see I've got a step called refresh from production, because in order to make sure that my acceptance matches production, we're running a comparison between our production database and the acceptance database, mainly in terms of schema, to make sure that the schema matches before we deploy to the acceptance database. So once that's done, then I go ahead and go through the same steps as I had within my testing environment. So create the release and deploy from the database release. And for my production, I simply take the script that I generated in acceptance, because we made sure that acceptance matched production, and I execute that same script. But our process actually has a drift detection functionality built into it. So first, it makes sure that the target database to production is still at the state when we generated that script. So and the way we do that is we keep track of, you know, the state of your database before deployment and after deployment through scripts folder. So if I go to my testing environment, for example, and we just deployed release 10, and here you can see I have states. One is source, one is target. So source is basically the state that we want to get our target to, and the target is the state at which the target database should be at in order for this update script to successfully get executed. So what it does is that it compares this target folder to the current state of the database to make sure they match before it executes that update script. So that's how we basically detect drifts. And if there is drifts, then the deployment will fail, letting you know that the target state is no longer at the state that we have in this target folder. So I'm going to go back to my deployment report here. And you can see deployment to testing was also successful. So now I can go ahead and deploy that to my acceptance environment. And while we're doing that, I'm going to show you what that report looks like. So the report of the differences and the update script. So I'm going to go back here. Let's look at our testing environment that we just deployed to. And if you look at this report, the changes.html file will actually show you exactly what has been deployed. So here are the 2 changes that I made. So the PRC get contacts. As you can see, we follow a Git style here to show you how the object definition has been modified. So we replace select star from with the actual column names, and we insert a new record in the RSS feeds table. And if there's any warnings, so our compare engine would throw warnings if there's changes that could result into data loss or deployment errors. So you would see those here. In this case, we don't have any of those. And finally, the actual deployment script that got executed on my test